All right. Well, welcome to the Untethered Consciousness channel. I'm Rod. It's 10 o'clock in Sydney, AM. With me today, I've got Igor Galibov back on the channel again. How you going there, Igor?
Good. How are you, Rod? It's great to be back here.
Good, man. Yeah, it's been a pretty busy morning. I thought while people are rolling in as far as guests go, so I'll just do a quick bit of housekeeping for those of you who haven't tuned into one of my live streams before. It makes life a whole lot easier if you put if you have a question for Igor, then, or even myself, just put a Q in front of your comment and just put that into the comments. But in the meantime, if you just let us know where in the world you're from, once you log in, I'll give you a shout out. And I thought, just to kick off the conversation today, Igor, I love the story that you tell about how this all started for you with the I think was it in Brazil?
Brazil,
Or
yeah.
that with the scissors. All right, yeah. So just and this will give people a bit of context about where you started. I think it's just a great story. Yeah. So
Spiritual
did you mind
journey. So
retelling us that? Yeah.
yeah. So in 2004, in 2004 it began very uh, kind of did not expect any of this. I did not know anything about spirituality, meditation, angels, guides, anything like that. It was just regular life, and my parents heard of this healer in Brazil, and I went with my parent to assist her, my mother. And when I arrived there, what took place was a spiritual surgery, which I did not expect to have. And that spiritual surgery took me out of my body, and I was able to see myself from my astral self. And was when I had my first awakening. What took place is he does physical surgeries and non-physical surgeries. A physical surgery where he takes a real knife, cuts you, and takes out a tumor, or he'll stick scissors in the nose to activate something. And an invisible surgery is where you walk in and they just read a prayer for 5-10 minutes and you go about your day and you were basically healed. The entities are healing you. And my turn came up, and he takes out these spiritual scissors, and he tells me, "Do you want to have a surgery?" I'm like, completely unaware of what's happening there. I said, "Sure." He gets up and he's in a trance. He does not even remember what he does because he goes into a complete trance. He comes up to me and presses something inside my mouth, and next thing I know, I'm out of my body, looking at myself. Now, this was the first time that I was consciously aware and I can see myself standing there while he's taking these surgical scissors and puts it into my nose, and with the bottom of his palm hits it. And I can feel it hit to the top of my skull from the inside. And I'm watching this at the same time as he twists the scissors one way, another way, pulls it out, says spit. By the time I spit, I'm back in my body. So that was my awakening point, where the following day I started to see and feel energy. So I did not understand what was happening to me. It took me a couple of months, maybe even still time, to understand what took place. But it was definitely an activation and an awakening point, where from that moment on, I started to see and feel energy. So that's when my spiritual journey began, and I decided to kind of isolate myself from the world. And I went into meditation for about 3 to 4 years, isolated myself from everything that I knew what was reality. And then I understood that it was a hologram or a matrix. And I spent more time with different dimensional beings, working with my astral body, working with my causal body, working with my soul, and reaching to the level of the oversoul's crystalline blueprint. So that was my path that I have explored very deeply. And then I started to teach this stuff. So at the beginning, it was very confusing, but I was like a kid with all the powers, but no wisdom. So that also has to do with a past life where I have achieved these higher dimensions of expression and been able to kind of experience them here. But I also had to download and experience the wisdom of why and how everything operates. And understanding it from the 3D reality is one thing, but understanding it from the spiritual perspective or the 5D realm, it is a multidimensional facet. So we have to understand and be such a flexible mindset to perceive into other dimensions, because what we call healing here is not healing in the higher dimensions. What we call transformation here is not a transformation in a higher dimension. And if you're doing tapping into a certain part of yourself here in the multidimensionalism, you're tapping in many other lifetimes, which are past or present, and working simultaneously through the soul level with them. So it's a very overlayered grid system, you can say. And I was like, okay, how do I teach this people? I cannot keep healing people. I got to teach them this. And that's when I started to teach this stuff and really digest the core of it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's it's a great story. I love it. Now I there's a video that is it's on the Jesse Michaels channel. I don't know if you've ever seen his channel, and it's only just come out. He's interviewed Sergeant Dan Sherman, who was who claims he was part of a program the NSA set up in the early 1950s, and he's essentially while he was in utero when his mother was pregnant with him, his DNA was changed by aliens. His mother was actually abducted, and his DNA was changed so that he could facilitate communication with the aliens. And I don't exactly know how the US government got involved in this. Anyway, it's a fascinating story, and he tells this story, this Sergeant Dan Sherman, who's now retired, about how he learned how to do this communication method that his DNA had been altered to be able to do. And it just got me thinking that you receive a lot of communication and information from ETs or aliens, whatever you like to say, from people from other realms as well. So what is the main, is there a main message for them, for us, and why do they have such an interest in us as a human species at this point?
Well, the message for us, there's different species, and each one of them has their own agenda. But the main agenda for all of them is to connect with us, is to really open up the firmament so we can connect in a deeper level, just like we used to in different timelines. So we are basically in a state of where we're stepping out and our awareness is expanding, and we're receiving different communications from different solar system and different beings, is we're connecting to their astral self or their soul levels, but we're not really connecting to their physical aspects. So when we connect to that part, it's a beautiful part, because it wants us to develop and grow vibrationally. Because as one planetary system or solar system is expanding and growing, so there is their consciousness, but they're also intergalactically connected to us. So parts of us are sharing an oversoul with them. So as they grow up in vibration, we also grow in vibration. So it's very beneficial for them to see us grow vibrationally, so they can maintain and sustain their higher state of consciousness as well. Because
Right.
if we take a look at, as we are one, right? Let's say like I'm a sphere here, you're a sphere here, but yet we are connected. If I grow and you don't, it's kind of not allowing me to go any higher. I have to wait for you. So if we grow as well and they grow, now we're ascending together. The whole universe is ascending. So like, let's take a look at Palladians, for instance. If we go back about even 12,000 years ago on a linear term here, they were at a different frequency than they were back then, right? They have grown and they stepped out of the struggles aspect of push and pull, the duality existence, where they have transitioned into a silhouette existence, where we are now just stepping into our higher consciousness and understanding that, wow, there's something more than this physical reality, that we have to think positively, take care of our emotions, take care of our body, and we're just becoming conscious of the little simple things that we used to understand. So for them, it's like, okay, how can we get mankind and evolution to grow? So they telepathically communicate to us. We receive messages, we get visions, we start to have downloads. And all of these downloads is actually an expansion of our nervous system to a higher state of consciousness, so we can really understand how to exist in the higher dimension.
So I've got another question for you. I'm just going to quick shout out. Jan, thank you for tuning in. I think that might be one of your guests, Igor. Thanks for coming on the channel. And Francis from Vancouver, appreciate you joining us today. If you've got a question for Igor, just drop it in the comments. If you're just lurking, let us know where you're from. We'd like to know where you are in the world. Now, you've definitely got a more positive slant to your perspective on things, Igor. And I've had some other guests who talk a lot about this reptilian influence, and the how kind of prevalent it is. And I've had many different guests. Like I've even had like somebody just joined randomly off the street, and that the veil is quite thin for them, and they'd be walking down the street in New York, and then they'd see someone's face literally turn into like a reptilian face, and they'd be like, what the hell is that? And you mentioned before that there's some species have different agendas, and so what's your take on that?
Well, they are reptilian. Look, just like there's bad people and good people, people with good intentions and bad intentions. We're existing in a dimension where we have duality. And this duality allows us to kind of choose positivity and negativity, right? We can experience many different facets of vibrations. Now, at a point, we as humans have a cerebellum, right? We call it the reptilian brain. This part is connected to a deeper state of our emotional consciousness. So when we get upset, frustrated, angry, any of those lower frequencies, we right away start to feel pain and discomfort in this area. And that's fear-based. That's why it's called the reptilian brain. How do these reptilians connect to us? They connect to us through fear. Why? Because they exist at a lower frequency. So if you are operating at a low frequency and operating in fear and hatred, anger, any of those frequencies, then you are more likely to connect to them. So what happens is they are just existing and trying to survive just like anything else. If we as collective humans move in vibration higher, that means we are leaving them and they no longer are able to connect and communicate with us and kind of utilize our energy, because we have stepped into a higher state of consciousness. And now that we stepped into a higher state of consciousness, we're able to hold that tone. If we're able to hold that tone, that lower vibration cannot see us. So what's happening, we as humans are moving, because there are other extraterrestrials that do not expand, meaning they don't evolve. They have created a car, let's say, and that car stays that same for eons to come. They don't develop it. They don't grow it. So imagine we created a car in 1940s and we still have the same car today. But us as humans, we love to develop and to create more and more and more. That's the beauty in us, that we are able to move higher in vibration as well. So now that we're moving up higher, the reptilian race, you can say, is trying to hold on to us and create as much chaos as they can in order to keep us in fear state vibration, so they can continue ciphering our energy. Which energy is it? It is the prana. What everybody's always trying to hold in their body is the prana life force. So the whole purpose of them is, from their perspective, if you truly understand them, because you have to understand darkness. Darkness is a living thing and it's also trying to survive. Because if God created everything, then there's nothing wrong with that aspect of the darkness as well. So we have to understand it in order to overcome it. But if we push it away and we constantly fight it, we're actually giving more energy to it. Because the logical mind that we have, we're taught from childhood, is to push and fight things and transform things and force things. But in the higher realms, it doesn't work like that. The higher realm looks at it and says, I am the source of this creation as well. Because the reptilian race, we are also sharing an oversoul with them. So if we are sharing an oversoul with them, then there's an aspect of you that is as violent and as negative as them. And if we shift that aspect of that aspect of violent and darkness within ourselves, then therefore we are harmonizing that aspect and we're letting it go and moving up higher in the next level of evolution. So this is what the Palladians, the Arcturians, the Syrians, whatever you want to call them. There's so many different species out there that want us to move up in higher vibration. And there are those that will stay at a lower vibration. But we also see this taking place in the world. I mean, the last 4 years, we saw that chaos. They were trying to create as much as fear as possible, the past 5 years or so, as much as possible. Guess what happened? It backfired, because even the darkness works for the light, right? We had the biggest awakening during the time of COVID, when they thought they're scaring everybody, keeping them at their homes. Instead, they had a huge spiritual awakening. And the world just exploded. Everybody wants to learn meditation. Everybody wants to do some yoga. Everybody's doing some breath work, taking care of their body. It shifted from being slaves, 9 to 5, to operating in a higher state of consciousness. So as the world is going through this, we're changing, and even the technology is starting to serve us. So when the technology starts to serve us, we're starting to unite and we're starting to grow. And you see communities are developing throughout the world. So everything is changing in a positive way, even though we think that there's a war happening. But through that war, there's a change that comes into light. And we have to learn how to nurture the darkness, because, see, darkness is what was here first. So from the darkness of our mother's womb, we come into light. And when we transition from here, we go back into darkness. So light is only temporary, yet we are trying to fight for it. And I'm speaking in an energetic terms. Because once you really step into that space of darkness and you have no fear of it, it will actually bow down to you and ask you to be of service. So there was a time where I was like, wow, reptilians gotta transform, hate this, blah, 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 and had this resistance. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? I tuned into my higher self, and it took me to the time where I was a reptilian. And I started to observe. And I saw that he was forced to fight, even though he did not want to. As I harmonized myself with that reptilian aspect, that energy transformed, and my aggressive side subsided. So if you have any aggression within yourself, internally, we know what it is. You know, inside, we might not respond it out, but internally, you know what it is. And if you have that internally, that means you have fear-based beliefs that are vibrating to that space. So therefore, they can manipulate you. It is a war outside of this planet. It's a war of harnessing a soul, but nobody can harness a soul. They're trying to harness a soul. So as long as we are at a low frequency and not aware and expanded into our consciousness, the other dimensional beings will continuously to, you can say, kind of absorb or take our light. So now we're becoming just basically batteries for them. But if you become conscious of yourself, of your body, and you take care of yourself, you do your breath work, your meditations, You transform, become a better human. Now you're becoming in charge of all fragments of yourself that you forgot of who you truly are. So the alien species that are benevolent ones want to meet us at their level. They don't want to meet us at a lower level, because at a lower level, we will still see them as a negative aspect, and we will try to fight them, because we will unite as mankind and find a common enemy, because this is what mankind does. So they're waiting for majority of people to raise in vibration, and that's when they'll be able to come down, even though more and more people are able to connect with them and see them etherically, maybe some even physically. I was very fortunate to connect with some of them physically, but vibrationally, it does not really feel good. Why? Because their vibration is at a different state of consciousness. And when we meet them at that level, they want us to be equal.
This is
So I know there's a lot of stuff going on there, but you have to ask the people that are telling you this information, from what state of consciousness are they saying this? Or they're saying this in order to grasp attention. So if I talk about negativity, people want to listen to that right away. But if I talk about gentleness, love, and peace, only those that are vibrating in that frequency and are really ready to connect to that will tune into it. But if I start talking about, oh, they came and they grabbed me and this and that and they're bad, people are tuned in right away. Why? Because our internal compass is still turning towards negative things because it feeds us. We turn on the news, it feeds us. But peacefulness does not feed you. Peacefulness allows you to grow internally. It allows you to find your own state. It doesn't allow you to look for something outside. It wants you to connect vertically to your own source. So there are those angelic beings, celestial beings, and extraterrestrials that are waiting for that. So where are we going and what are we doing? Do we want to let something or somebody else to continuously control us and manipulate us? Or do we want to come into our heart space?
Yeah. So, Michael the Messenger, Shalom. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Shalom, shalom.
It seems like if we talk about the C19 period, let's say, I can't say that word without getting banned, and that period of time where we're all kind of locked down in fear, etc. It actually was a catalyst for. I can see how, as you were saying, it was a catalyst for what occurred after then, where there was this sort of an expansion of people, and people started to ask questions rather than just accepting what they were being told. And it's almost like if that didn't happen, we'd probably still be. I don't think we would have evolved as much as what we have. What do you think?
I think I think you're correct. I mean, if you take a look at what happened to the Earth just for 6 months, pollution cleaned out. The Earth started to rejuvenate herself. Waters were cleaner. Forests started to grow. It was just like 6 months. 6 months, mankind stopped destroying Gaia, and she rejuvenated herself. Can you imagine if that would be 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we would
Yes.
be probably all enlightened by then.
So, I don't know if you've read any of Robert Monroe's books. He was sort of one of the early out-of-body experience authors, and he talked about in one of his later books, I think it was Ultimate Journey. So he wrote 3 books, and he talked about the concept of loosh. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard that term before. So loosh is what's being harvested from the earth, which is like, that's what we produce as humans. And apparently it's very valuable to some species, some that are interdimensional, some that are on our dimensions. And it kind of ties in with what you were saying about some of the reptilians, that's kind of their thing. Is that is that all they have as far as like our value to them is being able to harvest this energy, and then as we raise our own vibrations, that kind of goes away. I guess they'd be getting a little bit upset about that fact that it's not such a sure thing anymore, and we seem to be we seem to be kind of like deviating from the plan.
Exactly. I'm not sure what that is, but pretty much it's that energy that everybody's trying to harness. I mean, every single one of us here on planet is the reason we become sick or ill is because we are depleted of prana, which is our life force. So if you build enough prana, you will not need to sleep as much. You will always be active because prana is what allows us to really cultivate and become the magnetic force field of attraction and abundance in this reality. The soul can only exist in a vibrant body, the body that is filled with pranic light. So the other side that you're talking about that is looking for this light, and when we're attracted to people, is we're attracted to their light. We like them, we feel good with next to them, is because they have expanded their force field. You know, when we talk about I need to protect my energy, there is no such a thing as protection. In the higher realms, protection is the expansion of the light within. It's like basically being the sun. So when you see the sun and it's so bright and powerful, if you try to touch it, you'll burn. If your energy field is so bright and expanded, any negativity try to penetrate through it, it will basically transmute itself. It will burn. So therefore, if we work on ourselves and we expand the pranic light and the heart light within ourselves and stop wasting the light through the useless thoughts, then we will always be charged because the mind constantly spends energy by thinking. But if we learn how to calm the mind and be in alignment, then we're not wasting energy, but we're using the energy towards the source. So therefore, it becomes a recurring energy. So it becomes a loop. So the source gives you light always, and you're constantly a service to the source. So once you have locked that in, the pranic light will always be within you. Through that process, we change our belief systems, we change our emotions, but now we are operating at a different state of consciousness of what you truly came here for. But if we're constantly looking everywhere except ourselves, now we're spending energy. So the other beings, there are some beings that operate at a different frequency, they operate at a different blueprint where they need the energy from somebody else. So they're constantly searching for those that are not aware and are giving themselves away without consent.
You just remind me of something about the sun. I'm going to ask you that question in a sec. Maureen, thank you very much for joining up as a member. I really appreciate that. It does help support the channel. Michael, the messenger. Yeah, in psychology, we set boundaries and starve them of their supply. I think he's he often has
But
comments from
psychology. So this is how the physical mind operates and understands boundaries. But in the energetic realms of the astral body and the emotional body, the mental body and the causal body, those boundaries do not apply because those boundaries actually create more opportunities to create more boundaries in life. See, the logical mind that we operate under this dimension is a trap. We're taught to create something, we have to force it, we have to fight for it. In the energetic world, there is no forcing or fighting. In the energetic world is matching the vibration that already exists. And once you match the vibration, it comes into your physical reality, and then all you have to do is take the steps towards that. Those steps are no longer pushing. They are effortlessly flowing in a higher state of consciousness where you're joyfully moving through life and things are coming to you as you are moving. So when we say boundaries, when let's say you create a boundary, say, okay, I'm not getting into a relationship that's going to take away my light. And guess what? So the universe says, take away my light. It understands the theme. So it's going to constantly give you opportunities in relationships that will take away your light. Now, if you fix that internally within yourself, in your subconscious mind, in your emotional state, in your mental state, and see what belief system is moving within you that is constantly giving away. You say, okay, let me see the mental, and now let me see my energetic flow. Where is my mental body self-sabotaging itself? Once you shift that, the energy is no longer leaving. It's willingly giving and knowing when to and when not to. But not only that, those opportunities or those environments that take your energy will no longer come to you because you are not depleting your own self.
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
suppose. Yeah, it does. I I think about the source is like really there is no limit to the energy that the source that we all come from has. So thinking of boundaries is thinking like there's there's limitations that you'll run out or somebody could steal it from you or whatever. But in reality is if that energy is flowing through, then it's like a river that can never be stopped.
Correct. It is thinking like the higher mind does.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. And where does that really take place in our physical body? In our solar plexus. That's why it's called the solar plex. In the solar plexus, when we transform the ego mind, it's also in the solar plex. The solar plex shifts, and the physical and the higher mind integrates in that space. So when that takes place, you're no longer are bounded by negative hooks coming into your belief system, but you become the effect. So now you are basically the sun that is shining the light out into the field. You're affecting everyone instead of them affecting you. So the solar plexus, there's a huge emotional knot there. And when we really understand the concept of the solar plex in the higher dimensions, that's when we really we start to step into the space of giving and sending light.
All right, so I want to ask you about the sun and what you've learned, from our ET friends and others that you have contact with, because in a purely physical sense, that think about the sun, it's like it's there and it's essential for all the orbits of everything else that's going on in the solar system. But there's some new. I just heard this yesterday. There's even scientists are starting to realize there's a lot more to the sun than just that. And in fact, those who receive communications from ETs and other dimensional beings have a really high regard for our sun, like almost a reverence for it that we don't actually appreciate. Have you got any insights for us there?
Well, the sun is a very powerful portal. I mean, the sun, it communicates to the central sun of the universe. So there's one thing is that it gives warmth and comfort and vibrational healing to us. But on a higher level, it is a portal through where souls enter into this life. So the sun is actually a portal in the astral and higher realms for souls to transfer into the womb of a female, because the womb of a female vibrates at that frequency that receives the soul. So during the time of conception, the highest vibration that creates between the two people and the love, right? The souls that are matching that vibration will enter into that space, because what you are creating is the Big Bang, they call it, the orgasmic experience of life. The sun's portal distributes souls into this place of existence of this planet. That's one part. The other part, that the sun has many layers of dimensions, not just physical, but the sun is a powerhouse. It is our life force, right? Nothing exists without it. So the sun rays also charge us, and we can also understand when it gives us light and when it takes light from us as well. I feel like it's very powerful, and we need to understand the vibration of it and even actually match it, because the pineal gland also vibrates at that frequency as the sun.
So tell us a bit more about the pineal gland. I hear a lot of people talking about this, and I've deliberately not researched because I'm always interested in different perspectives. So what purpose does it serve?
Um, from what I was shown was that the pineal gland is a gateway. There's a whole funnel of energy that goes back into our energy bodies, to the astral body and the causal body. The pineal gland is a gateway that allows us to perceive into the astral body and to causal body and other dimensions, because that is the part through where uh, communication and connection to different solar systems and receiving information comes from. Because the higher energy travels through the causal body, then the astral body, then the mental and emotional body, and then into the physical body. Okay, so the pineal gland is not what I would be focusing on activating. I would be focusing on really balancing the pituitary gland first, because the pineal gland is fully activated when the whole gland system in the body is activated. So the endocrine system in the body is balanced out, and each gland is a chakra. So once those glands are activated and they're all working synchronicity and balance, which is comes into the pituitary gland. And when the pituitary gland is expanded, your whole hormonal system is balanced. Now you are a balanced vehicle. You are not this body. You are a vehicle of your soul that is fully vibrating at a higher state of consciousness, and awareness is expanded in all parts of your physical and dimensional self. Now the pineal comes in and fully activated, and you have clarity of what you're receiving and what you are sending. So, receiving meaning that you only allow higher benevolent beings to communicate with you, connecting to different people and civilizations, understanding clarity and truth that resonates to this timeline, not to a parallel light timeline. So you get clairvoyance, clairaudience, all the clairs in alignment with this timeline. So you become basically a walking oracle, right? But all of that has to take place from the lower centers being transformed into the higher state. So a lot of people focus on the pineal gland, but it is activated through psychedelics, but it's only a spark. But how about keeping it on all the time? How about having it a balance? Because a lot of times people get images and visions, and they say, okay, I had a vision. I need to move to California. I'm selling my home. I'm moving to California. They sell their home and they move to California. 2 years later, they come back and they're like, I lost my house. I lost my money. I came back here. Why'd you come back? What happened? I had a vision that this is going to happen and it didn't happen. You know why? Because that vision that you received was from a parallel reality that was really excited. And that vision exploded and created a ripple effect. You connected to it and you kept it in your ego mind, and you thought it was for you in this timeline.
All right, so
clarity
I've
is very
had a
important.
friend that's happened to. Sorry, it's you almost said word for word what a friend of mine has done. He hasn't moved back yet, but so how can we differentiate? Is there a practical way for us to differentiate these messages where we get these urges to do certain things, or that this feels like the right path to go down, and then, like in that example, it was like, well, it didn't happen, so I had to move back. You got any advice for people that might be impulsive like that?
Yeah, it's very important to have clarity in the visions. Don't get hung up on them, because they can really siphon our nervous system and believe that this is the reality for this dimension. This is where daily practice comes in, to know how to have clarity and differentiate what is for this timeline and what is not. This is divine discernment. It's very important. This is where the boundaries come in, the boundaries of understanding the inner world. And if you have a daily practice, you'll be able to understand what is for you and what is not for you. You'll be able to differentiate different type of energies and vibrations, because a lot of times we feel, and it feels good. It feels good, but is this feeling good? Is it being manipulated, controlled, or is it coming from your higher self? Is it coming from your source, or somebody else is implanting something into you. That is the differentiations that we have to understand. And in order to do that, we have to have a daily practice. Breath work, meditation, contemplation. And this is how we teach ourselves. Because if we were taught this from childhood, we would all have these tools and be able to have clarity. We would know, okay, this is my path, not somebody else's path. I know that I need to walk this path. There'll be a deep inner knowing with every part of your body, not just a memory of that experience. Because a lot of times we have a memory and say, oh, I felt like this, so I'm going to follow through. But that has to be through you all the time. It has to be flowing through you. And when we feel that, that is through daily practice. And a lot of people don't want to do the daily practice. They start and they don't finish. They continue for a couple of weeks and then they stop. It's consistency. That's just like everything else in life. I mean, I've been meditating and I still meditate every day, for over 20 years. And it doesn't stop. And there were times that I was meditating for 16 or 18 hours a day. There were times that I was meditating for 3 to 4 hours a day. And I still meditate at least 1 to 2 hours a day. Because this is the state of consciousness. This is the greatest tool that we have to get us into a higher state. See, we have an energy field. And that energy field, just you and me talking, it does not have time or space. Our energies are already interacting. But when we go into busy places, our energies interact. We have to come back home and recenter ourselves. And people don't want to do that. They want to have something or somebody outside of them help them in this reality. But God created you so you can become God yourself. And nobody wants to do that.
So let's try something a little practical, because I know there's lots of people out there that be going, all right, it's okay for you, Igor, but there's no way in hell that I've got an hour in a day, and whilst I acknowledge the fact that it's entirely beneficial and they wouldn't realize what would happen if they did, but I personally don't meditate for an hour a day. But I do make a point of getting out in nature every day and being quiet. Like, I don't wear headphones or anything like that. So I feel like that is kind of like, that's my version of meditation, and it allows me to kind of quiet everything and understand. So being able to discern things that come to you as those that are from your higher self or worthwhile versus things that just might be sort of from other timelines or whatever. So I feel like that's worthwhile. But I mean, that's one thing I guess that people could do. But do you often, if people come to you and say, Igor, that's just not going to happen, I would rather that people have some practice that's accessible to them and maybe is a path to doing more, rather than just going, oh, I'm not going to do anything. Do you go, well, that's just where they are and we'll leave it at that? Or do you actually have some sort of baby steps for people?
I actually do, yes. I have courses and different workshops where I guide people from step one. Step one is basically understanding the physical body and how it operates. Because a lot of times what we do is we say, this is my physical body, and that's it. A lot of people don't even know their organs. Like, where's the liver? Where's the kidneys? Where's the lungs, the heart, the basics? Because to understand the whole process of existence is God does not make mistakes, right? He created everything for a purpose. Every nerve, every part of your body is a immaculate machine. And this machine processes information and emotion, not just for digestion of food. It processes mental and emotional fragments. And if we start to understand how it works, then we'll start to understand what's really taking place inside of us. Because this body is not really our body. It is the temple of our soul. So the steps I take people through is first understanding the physical body, then understanding the energy bodies, and then from the energy bodies, understanding the concept of the soul. Because the soul also, what we call it's all perfect, needs your attention, because through the soul there are fragments that it breaks itself away and that also need to be recalibrated. So we here have responsibility to receive energy and to give energy up. The angelic realm has only one responsibility: to bring energy down. And each angel has its own responsibility. Angel of love for love, angel for success, only success, angel for power, only for power, angel transformation for transformation only. Do you see that they all have their own tasks? But we have all of those tasks and we have responsibility of this dimension. So how do we find that? This is all begins with number one thing is breath. So right now, even the people that are watching, where is your breath? Where are you breathing to? And how are you breathing? Because the breath is what allows us to hold our tone. Once we become deviated emotionally or mentally, our tone changes because our breath changes. You let go of the rhythm of the breath because even the sun breathes and the earth breathes, because we know that when the sun pumps in and out, it fluctuates. When it fluctuates, it actually shoots out the rays. So same thing with our heart and our organs, same thing with our breath. So a person should be breathing below its navel and the stomach should be expanding as you breathe in. That should be a natural breath. So if we breathe in, stomach should expand. As we breathe out, stomach should contract. Most people breathe in and their stomach goes in, or they're just breathing into their chest or in their solar plex, but they're not breathing deep below the navel. Why breathe below the navel? When we breathe below the navel, that becomes our natural state of breath. It should be naturally. You sleeping, washing dishes, doing stuff around the house, pay attention to your breath. When you become emotional or frustrated, any of those emotions that come in, your breath changes right away. The whole thing is to maintain that breath, maintain that calmness, that peacefulness. When you're able to do that, you're maintaining your tone. So when you're maintaining your tone, you're maintaining your alignment, your connection. Now, if you're 30 years old or 40 years old, 50, whatever it is, pay attention to how you're breathing and how long you've been breathing like this. And I'm sure most likely since childhood, because what happens is during the childhood, we get triggered and our emotional state shifts and we stop to breathe. We stop to pay attention. So if we start to breathe properly, now we're becoming aware. Now your prana is more built up in the body. You're able to have clarity in the mind. Your kidneys are pumping blood into your mind, so you'll be able to clear your thoughts and be able to have sharpness in the mind, accuracy as well, and you'll be aligned with a certain vibrations of different dimensions that are here to assist you. So because you're vibrating at a higher frequency like Gaia is and our solar system. So breath is very important. That's one. The other part is expanding awareness. Expanding awareness, being aware not only of your physical body, but your energy bodies. Expansion into this space, the unseen world. When we come into this world, we're aware of it, but then we're closed off from that as well. And now are people stepping into it? They're becoming aware and they're starting to see stuff, starting to feel stuff, but they don't have clarity. This is where we start to have clarity, is through your breath. So these practices are very important. Let's maybe guys want to do a little breathing.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. Let's
Okay,
do that.
let's do that. So see if we can breathe in deep into the abdomen, maybe below the navel. Slowly breathing out. Breathing in through the nose. Slowly breathing out through the nose. As you slowly breathe out, we're going to allow our imagination to guide us. Allow your imagination to simplify your transformation. So visualize an egg shape of energy around you, like a golden egg shape. Yet you're still conscious of your breath. On your next breath out, slowly breathing out through your nose, Visualize that egg-shaped expanding. As you slowly breathe out through your nose, visualize that energy expanding to the left and the right side of you. With every breath, fill that space in a golden light, like a sun, to the left and the right. Now visualize that same breath, slowly breathing out, expanding the energy in front of you and behind you, creating a golden space within your auric field. Again, as you're breathing in deep and slowly breathing out, visualize that space now going beneath you, a golden light beneath you. Now we gently breathe and visualize the golden light to rise above us. As you breathe out, you're going to visualize the whole auric field in all directions expanding 3 to 6 feet around you, 2 to 3 meters around you, 6 to 9 feet around you. Now gently bring awareness between your eyebrows, where your nose and eyebrows meet together. This is the space where the pituitary gland enters and receives the light. Now you're going to synchronize your breath with your pituitary gland. Visualize a white beam of light in front of your pituitary gland. As you breathe in, you're going to see a white light enter that space. As you breathe out, you're going to see a white light exit through that space between your eyebrows. That white light purifies and activates your pituitary gland. Allow it to go deeper with every breath and more out into the field. It purifies your thoughts. The white light activates the pituitary gland to balance your endocrine system, your hormonal system. It also activates your divine vision. Once more, as you breathe out, visualize the auric field expanding in all directions. And whenever you're ready, you can gently come back to yourself. This is just a little short, and I'm sure people felt the peacefulness and the expansion of stillness that they came through. I'm curious to see the comments.
I didn't want to breathe. you get so saturated with oxygen, you kind of like stop breathing for a bit.
It comes down, right? It naturally
Yeah.
just slowly, yeah. Hi, Tanisha.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Is that what
curious
you
to
found,
hear if
Tanisha?
anybody in the comments there say like how they felt during this time right now.
Yeah. Yeah, because we often breathe very shallow, like it's just a small movement. But when you consciously expand your diaphragm into your down lower, yeah, it's certainly, it doesn't feel like you're really trying hard, but the only way I can explain it was I just got to the point where I just had to stop and be very just still for like 20 seconds or so. Yeah. Mariam, hi, thanks for joining us. Yeah, hi Tanisha. All right, yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's kind of an introduction to activating you were focusing on your pineal gland there, and you mentioned there that it's not about activating that, but that's sort of part of activating your light body, what you were doing there.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning. I mean, this is the state that we want to be in. This is like this peaceful, drunken state of existence. And if people that are watching, they want to listen to more of these meditations, I have different meditations on my YouTube channel as well, so they can always listen to them as well there. Different guiding meditations, because I myself go through these processes, and when I go through these processes, the expansion of awareness that takes place, you unlock different key codes within the consciousness. So when you unlock them, you are actually embodying these aspects, and they become part of you. You are no longer become separate from your intuition. You become that intuition. So your all thoughts and belief systems become aligned with your higher self. That is the whole purpose for us, is to embody that. But it takes time, practice. If you spend 5 to 8 hours a day doing this, of course you're going to become professional, right? You do anything 5 to 8 hours a day, you're going to become professional. So if a person decides to do this really truly, and spend 4 or 5 hours a day, they're going to see rapid change within years, because these days the planet is vibrating at a high frequency. She's supporting us, and at the same time, all of these changes that are taking place, our physical body is going through that as well.
Yeah, that was really great. I can't believe that an hour has gone by. It only feels like 5 minutes. This is actually the first time. So anyone who's from Igor's community, I appreciate you joining me today, because you may not have heard of Untethered Consciousness before, but thanks for tuning in. Now, we did actually have another interview with Igor. I think it was actually maybe it was the last one published. I've got a couple in the queue that I need to do. So you can see more there. Now I'll have links in the show notes to how you can get in touch with Igor if you want to. And I also just want to say thank you to everyone for supporting the channel, because I started a couple of years ago. I think, it was a little over 2 years ago. And, this is just a part-time gig for me. I've got a full-time job and I've got 4 kids. So life gets pretty darn busy sometimes. And sometimes I can't believe that that many people have really taken an interest. So I appreciate everyone's support.
You beat me, Rod. You got 4 kids, man. I got 3. God bless you.
Yeah. If you'd asked me after I had 2, I thought, would you have any more? I would have thought no, but I'm definitely a no now. But it's,
At 4,
they do keep young. What ages are your kids?
Oh, so 18, 16, and 12.
Okay. Yeah. That's a very useful age, especially the 18 and the 16-year-olds. You spend so much time and bandwidth having to do kind of the tasks that are required to support them, and now it comes back the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They can.
Older ones in college now. I mean, it's beautiful to see them grow and change and transform, and getting them involved as well into this meditations and breath work, and how it actually supported them in their transformation in their life as well. So it's really powerful to see these things. I'm sure
Yeah,
you know, kids are very, very interesting when they're growing up to observe.
I like watching how they pretty quickly become. Well, I only really had two goals in life with children. One is that they're kind, and they learn how to be sovereign beings. You know, think
Yeah,
for themselves, be independent. They're two important. I think if you've done to me anyway, that you got those two things nailed, I think you can pretty much handle anything that comes your way,
yeah,
and they'll live a pretty good life. But it's interesting how that process where they go from being very, very dependent on you to start becoming quite independent and independent thinking, etc. That happens pretty fast. It's a cool thing to watch when it does happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
All right. Well, I think we don't seem to have any other questions today. Everyone was just cool to hang out, which is nice. Appreciate you coming back, having another chat with you, Igor. I'm looking
Same.
forward to when I can actually. It's hard to travel when there's small children, but at some point it'll be. I really look forward to the day where I'll be at some conference somewhere and get to meet some of my guests in person. I'm sure we'll have that
Hey,
opportunity
if you're
at some
ever
point as well.
in Pennsylvania, call me up. I got plenty of space here.
Awesome.
Okay,
All right. Well, thanks
Thank
everyone for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Have a joyful one. Thank you, man.